recent months, I've been sculpting nothing but frogs. I made a wizard frog, a frog bot, and more. It's been well over a year since I crafted my last doll, and I did not have my 3D printer at that time. Which means I now have a lot more tools at my disposal to create the ultimate froggy girl. With that being said, it's time for a little crafting magic. As usual, I'll start with a sketch as I like to have a clear vision of what I'm doing before I start a new sculpting project. I don't know if it's like that for other artists, but I personally never have a clear image in my head of what I want to create when I'm drawing. It's more of a vibe of what I want my character to give off, not a clear picture. So when I sat down to draw this girl, I wanted her to have a fun and cool vibe. Very cartoony proportions, and I wanted her to channel Powerpuff Girl energy, if that makes any sense at all. Then I just kept at it until I was satisfied with my drawing. What do you think? Did I accomplish what I set out to draw? Does she give off fun and cool vibes? I think so. Making a human ball-jointed doll completely from scratch has been a long-time goal of mine. I say human because I have made 2 robot BJDs in the past, so I felt like I was ready to take on a human one. So I got to work and 3D modeled the head and body. It looked a little rough at first, but I got there eventually. Now's the hard part, making the joints and sockets. I managed to make the wrist joint, but for the rest, I was at a complete loss. I looked at tutorials and references and made at least 3 attempts, but after many hours, it was still a failure. I know this is YouTube and I should probably say something inspirational like, let's keep trying until we succeed. But sometimes you just have to face reality and accept that you don't have enough skills to achieve what you want to achieve. And that's alright. It's okay to suck. It's not like you're trying to impress strangers on the internet or anything. Don't forget to like and subscribe! So let's take a different approach. I'll use this file I purchased on Cult3D to make my doll instead. I'll have a link to the model in the description. I might not have enough skills to 3D model a BJD from scratch, but I have enough skills to alter one. It only needed minor adjustments to match my artistic vision. I altered the head, neck, and hands, and lastly I sculpted big chunky platform shoes instead of feet. Alrighty, let's prepare the doll for 3D printing. To do so, I'll use a slicing software called Chitubox. I'm using a resin printer, so I'll need to hollow the shoes since they're so big. I added drain holes in the sole and added support to all the pieces. I'm gonna have to print in 2 batches, so let's get started on that. I'll print my doll with Funcrecol impact-resistant resin, which they have kindly sent to me for free. But please note, this is not a paid review. This resin is available in 3 colors. I chose tan, which is a perfect match for my froggy girl. One thing to note about this resin, it requires a 25-degree printing temperature, so keep that in mind for best results. I warmed up the bottle in hot water beforehand, and obviously don't use something you put food in. This jug is for resin water only. Alrighty, the resin's all warmed up. I calibrated my printer settings. Now's the time to put this resin to the test. I was concerned about how orange the resin looks out of the bottle, but once cured the color's a lot more brown and looks as advertised. A couple of hours later, the second batch is done. I'll remove the support, wash, and cure the pieces under the UV light. Here's all the pieces. There's quite a few of them, 24 to be exact. This is my first time trying a resin that requires to be washed in IPA. I've only used the water wash type before, which are known to be more weak and brittle. So in comparison, this impact resistant resin is a lot stronger. Even the smaller delicate parts of the doll feel sturdy. As you can see, the print turned out very well and the details are nice and sharp, especially on the shoes. To fill those drain holes, I'll use the UV putty that was included with the resin bottle. It's a transparent putty that cures under the UV light. They have this as a separate product too, so you can buy it on its own. I use a silicone sculpting tool to apply it. The putty is pretty thick too, so it's not hard to apply at all. I usually use epoxy clay to fill drain holes, but this is a lot faster and easier, so this will definitely come handy for my next projects. With the holes plugged up, let's start sanding. I started with a rough grit, then did a second and third pass with finer grits until the doll pieces are all nice and smooth. I'm probably a weirdo for saying this, but sanding is one of my favorite parts of the 3D printing process. Sure, it does take a long time, but I can turn my brain off and just sand. I don't know, I just find it so relaxing. Once that was done, I gave the doll a bath with warm soapy water to remove all the dust and let it dry completely. Now let's assemble the doll and see what she looks like. Ah, she's so cute! I love her cartoony proportions. She can even stand and sit on her own. Now that I have my doll together, here's my first impression of the Funcrecol resin. For the color, nice. Details, thumbs up. Scratch resistance, pretty good. Toughness, don't know how it compares to other tough resins, but is definitely stronger than regular water wash. Overall, I'm very happy with the results, so thank you to Funcrecol for sending me their resin to try. I'll have a link to this product in the description if you are interested to try it out for yourself. Alright, enough of that, let's make the rest of her. My girl hair is bald and needs a wig, so let's start with that. This is the part of doll making that gets a little violent. I wrap her head tightly in plastic film, secured that with an elastic, and wrapped a piece of pantyhose tightly around her head. I covered the fabric in a generous coat of white glue. I did 2 coats of that and then decided to switch to Woohoo glue instead because I can make thicker layers and it dries faster too. It's less neat, but that won't show once it's covered in hair anyways. I trimmed the cap to shape and painted it beige. To make it easier for myself, I'm adding guidelines so I know where to glue the hair. For the hair, I'll be using sewing thread. I use that for Coraline and I'm hoping the sewing thread will work for a more cartoony look. I cut the thread to the same length and will glue small chunks along my guidelines. I did the first 2 rows off camera because the angle made it awkward to film, but the process is very simple. Dip the tip of the threads in white glue and stick it on the cap with the help of a silicone tool. Then repeat over and over and over until the entire head is covered. To hide her middle part, I taped a bunch of threads together, sewed that in the middle, and gently tore off the tape. I should have used transparent tape instead because it was really hard to get all the green tape off. I glued that on the top of the head, combing the hair in a natural direction. I also glued wefts inside the cap and made her spiky bangs that I'll glue on later. Then I took small sections of her hair, combed and glued it backwards, then trimmed the excess. I left 2 rat tails at the bottom so I can braid in longer pieces of hair. This was probably not the best way to do it, but her braids are so long, it would have been a pain to glue all those super long strands to the scalp individually. And this is only my 5th doll, so I don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to wigs. I think it ended up looking okay. I'm not in love with the results. Not sure the sewing thread was the right choice for this, but I don't hate it either. I don't know. What do you think? Either way, she's got hair now, so let's paint her face. I primed the surface with 2 coats of Mr. Super Clear, then painted the eyes white. I tried to do really thin coats to reduce brush marks, but in the end I gently sanded the surface to make it super smooth. Then I used a watercolor pencil to sketch on her irises. I tried to make them as symmetric as I could. Then I filled in the color, trying to make it gradient. I tried blending the colors by activating the pencils with water, but that didn't work too well, so I rubbed it off and switched to acrylic paint. I did have a harder time doing this face up and definitely need to practice more. I think next time I'll try doing inset eyes. That might help make the eyes more symmetric, which is what I struggled with. Especially if I can print the eyes on paper and glue them to glass cabochons like I did for my frog bot. I went over my lines with a black pencil. You can't really see it on camera, but when I tried to erase the black pencil, it left a stain on her face. But fortunately, I'll be able to hide that with her hat. I lined her eyes with black acrylic paint. This was so nerve-wracking since if I mess this up, I can't erase it, and I'll have to start over again. I went very slowly and was holding my breath the whole time. I think it took something like 3 hours to do the whole face, and everything on this face is sisters, not twins, maybe even cousins. In the future, I might reprint her head and give this another try. We'll see. Thankfully, I didn't mess up with the acrylic paint, so I added pink pastel to blush her face. I added some around her brows too to camouflage the stain, but that didn't really work. I also gave her beauty marks and freckles to make it look like the other stains on her face were intentional. I mean, being a good artist is knowing how to hide your mistakes. Am I right? On that note, her face is done. Let's make her froggy hoodie. I didn't have any bright green fabric in my stash, so I went thrifting with my friend. She's expecting a baby, so we usually check the baby bins first. And as we walked in the store, it was right there on top of the pile. The perfect bright green baby romper. So I bought it and washed it. I'll have to cut around Oscar the Grouch, but I should have plenty of fabric. And I can also use the neck trims to make the cuffs and waistband on my froggy hoodie. So let's start chopping. Chop chop. I modified a hoodie pattern I found on Pinterest, traced it on the fabric, and cut the pieces. I sewed the cuff on the bottom of each sleeve. And before sewing anything else, I need to add the graphics. To do so, I'll use these stencils I designed that my dad cut for me with his laser. Merci, papa. I folded the front of the hoodie in half to center the stencil, then stuck it in place. Then I used a small paintbrush to apply black paint. I peeled off the stencil And voila! A perfect pirate froggy design. So cute. For the sleeves, I was real original and wrote frog on each sleeve. Then I folded the sleeve in half, good side to good side, and sewed the seam so it makes the tube. Next, I sewed the front and back of the hoodie, first the shoulder seam and then the side seams. Then I inserted the sleeve into the armhole, sewed around the hole, flipped it over, and voila! Just need to sew the waistband and the hood. Honestly, I kinda wish I had a hoodie like this. I did her froggy cap off camera. I just followed this tutorial. I'll add the link in the description. I also made her a tiny pair of biker shorts from black stretchy fabric, and the socks are just tubes of stretchy orange fabric. I primed the sneaker white, then taped off the soles, and made multiple coats of green. Then painted the black stripes on the shoes. Let's remove the tape, and that's it for the clothes. She's a cool girl, so she needs a skateboard. I bought a toy one from the dollar store to customize. Want to see a cool trick? First, let's remove the logo on the top of the skateboard. Honestly, I don't know why I used such a small brush for this. I could have just painted the whole thing black with a bigger brush. Oh well. Then I printed little stickers to decorate her board. When I was young, I always thought skateboarding was the coolest thing ever. My brother and his friends would do tricks and stuff, and I tried to learn, but I was just really bad at it. So I guess my froggy girl can fulfill my childhood desire to be a cool skater girl. And that's everything completed. Let's see those final shots. So, what do you think? I'm really happy with her whole outfit. In the end, I'm not sure if I like the look of the sewing thread for the hair. I'm also not satisfied with her face. I can't pinpoint exactly what's wrong with it. Maybe it's her expression or the eyes? I don't know, like, is she cute or is she a little cursed? Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time.